All right, welcome to the Straight Talk Mind and Muscle podcast. Welcome to the Eat Well Move Well radio show. Jordan Fitzgerald, founder of warfighterathletic.co.nz. Welcome to the show, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for having me on.
It's nice to talk to a former commando, another compadre of the unit. It's going to be really interesting to me to hear your story, and I think for the network of people out there as well.
Absolutely.
And I see you got Warfighter Athletic there in the background. Love the brand, really cool stuff. It's got some wicked story behind it. I'd like to actually start there, rather than starting with the war stuff. I've got a basic framework, but let's get an idea of what Warfighter Athletic is, what you're doing. You're the founder of it. For the people that are listening, what is it that you guys bring to the table?
Yeah, so I guess Warfighter's actually seen, since our inception, it's seen a few changes along the way. And that was just because for me, I didn't have, a business background, and I was learning everything on the fly. And I had all these ideas about what I thought Warfighter Athletic was going to be about. And then as I grew as a businessman, and I grew into business, then I kind of learned what I was passionate about, and what I thought that I could do or we could do really well. So for the inception of Warfighter, when it first started out, it was kind of two things. The first thing was I'd been in the army for over a decade at this stage now. And to be honest, we were in a mild operational lull. There were some operations still going on, but in New Zealand anyway, it was really hard to get on those operations. And for me, that's exactly why I joined. I joined the army to be operational, to go out and have an impact on a global scale. And so in my career, even though I was really busy, I was away traveling with, going and doing coursing in the United States, spending 6 weeks out with UKSF, going out to SASR in Perth, and doing lots of exciting stuff. It just got to the point where I was actually starting to feel like I was lacking growth and fulfillment. And then whilst I was away on a trip to UKSF, I met up with a mate there who I served in Afghanistan with when we were in the infantry. And we're talking about the fitness industry in general, and just how corrupt it is essentially, and how much these guys running these big fitness companies, they're making a lot of money, but if you dug into it, they don't give a fuck about their clients. So for me, I was just like, imagine if you did something in the fitness realm, but more towards aimed at the military, but you actually gave a fuck. And so that was kind of where the seed, I guess, so to speak, of Warfighter. I kind of let it simmer, finished up in the UK, flew straight to the US, did another 6-week course. I was about 3 months away from home, and I was really busy when I was with the guys out in the UK. If we weren't out training, helping guys to prepare for Afghanistan, we were out getting on the piss, to be honest. And then I was also preparing for this course in the States, which had a higher level of theory to it.
Yep.
And so I had to do a lot of study, because it was kind of just a typical chucked in the deep end, sink or swim type scenario. So I was,
and of course the unit expects you to top the course.
That's it. If you fail, you will literally be ridiculed. And I say that with a smile on my face, but you will literally be ridiculed if you fail. And so I went to the US, and that was when you go to the US on some of these courses, they can be real, periods of working hard, but then there's a lot of networking, and there's a real social side to it. This course was like the complete opposite. We were just getting after it from the moment I landed to the moment I left. So I was literally training in Baltimore City and around Washington and the likes. And at nighttime, if there was a window of opportunity, I would go for a run around Baltimore Harbor just to try and maintain some sort of fitness and do some calisthenics. Came home to New Zealand. I think I had about 4 days to sort all my shit out from those 2 trips. So after every trip, there's what we call an AAR, an after action report. And I had to write reports on both trips, all the, what I learned, pros, cons, what we can adopt, relationships, capability that they're using that we're not using, all these sorts of things. And then I had to get ready to go on my junior NCOs course, which is a first line leadership course here in New Zealand for 3 months. So I turned up to that course relatively in a average trained state, to be honest. And we had on the first week of the course, you run an RFL, or a required fitness level, 2.4 kilometer run, some push-ups, pull-ups, and some crunches. Nothing unreasonable. To become, and I say this to people, like, for context, like, to join the army as a civilian, you have to pass this test.
Yep.
You're now doing the same test, yet we had, on the first time we ran the test, we had 40% of students fail.
Wow.
And I was gobsmacked. And I probably becomes from, one, I guess, personal standards, but two, when you're in the unit, 1NZSAS regiment, you've got commandos, you've got SAS, and it's a real alpha community, and it's dog eat dog. So when it comes to fitness tests, like, the lads are going for it, like it which is good because it raises the standard. So I just could not fathom that 40% of these soldiers who are going to be leaders couldn't pass a basic fitness test. And given the New Zealand Army, it's not the fact that they're going to be leaders, they will highly likely already be in a leadership position. And the Army actually teaches you a leadership framework, and the first level of leadership is to lead self. And another point of context here is this is a course that is now hard to get on. There are a lot of soldiers trying to get on this course. And I know even in the unit, there's a lot of guys trying to get on the course so they can further their career. And obviously their career progression relies on getting this qualification. And so I'm sitting there going, there is, in every unit across the country, there are good quality soldiers, driven, motivated, disciplined. They have the ability to lead self, who cannot get on this course. Yet here I am with 40% of the students can't pass a basic fitness test. And so I put it down to there's an issue with the culture within the Army. Then canvassing out, speaking to a good friend of mine, Rory, who runs Hard to Kill Fitness, he sent me a link to a report that was talking about, I believe, if I can remember correctly, 40,000 United States sailors, or some insanity number like that, could not pass a basic fitness test. And I just thought, this is a global issue.
Yeah.
Among militaries globally, there is an issue with the culture of fitness. And so what I really wanted to do with Warfighter in the beginning was to fuse the culture of the warrior, because everybody likes that. It's the running, it's the gutting, it's the tactical side of the job, and the athlete. So the warrior and the athlete. If one is missing, then you're not a complete soldier, operator, or warrior. And so I really wanted to create a culture around embracing the physical side, and that's where Warfighter Athletic comes into it. Yeah, we've definitely, if you hit the website, you'll see we've changed a lot since then. Same ethos, same values, same message. I've just thought, as we've grown, how do I cater to the complete needs of the warrior athlete? And when I looked at myself and the people that I was surrounded by, we didn't just go to the gym to go to the gym. We went to the gym to thrive across all aspects of life. Whether it's we're in the gym, we're doing CrossFit, we're doing kickboxing, we're in the hills, we're climbing mountains, we're out hunting, we're outdoors in the field environment getting after it. So I thought, I want to cater to the full needs of what I coined as the warrior athlete. And that's kind of morphed us along the path that we're on now.
Brilliant. And it just doesn't, it's not just military. I spent a couple of years in police when I came to Australia here, and same deal. What's worse is there's different fitness standards for males and females. So where you and I come from, there's one standard. I don't know about you, but I remember my last year, we were waiting for 2 females to come on our selection course, or whatever the terminology is for commandos. No, it was actually for SAS selection. And we were like, awesome, let's see what they got. The guys that are going to test them are like, love to see them. They never made it because their units, probably a lot of wannabes get in the ear and talk them out of it, which is a shame. But one fitness standard for us, for the fire brigade, which I'm in here, one fitness standard, male or female. For the police, which is the strangest thing, Fitzy, is different fitness standard for male and female. And when I was a uniform cop and I'm running after the bad guys, and literally one time we were pounding on them, me and a female, we're doing the same job. And she was an awesome female. She was a Brit cop, but different fitness standards. I'm pushing that on to be in the job for 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. You've still got the same job, but you can't meet the standard that was to get in, which is what you're talking about.
Yeah, it is mind blowing. And it's actually been great. We've had a huge response from whether it's military, whether it's police, whether it's fire, really subscribing to the warfighter ethos, and that is, the pursuit of excellence and that stay ready mindset. It's been good to go from day one till the day you hang up the boots, so to speak. It's again, if you had to pass that fitness test to get in the door, you should be able to pass that test till you walk out the door. And interestingly enough, we actually here in the New Zealand Army anyway, we have separate fitness standards, and that's an argument, and I think it's an interesting argument that people have. But at the end of the day, I think if you look at it from a warfighting perspective, you look at it from a lethality perspective, the enemy doesn't discriminate between sex. So why should our fitness standards have to be different?
Exactly. It's what I loved about our unit, and it's what I was very surprised. I had no idea about the fire brigade. I literally just turned up on day one and started applying for their stuff. And I turned up on their open day, which is all the fitness tests. And there was a female beside me. And you and I, we know one of our tenets is humor and humility. We don't judge. If someone's qualified, awesome. I'm not going to judge you because you're wearing the same thing. And this person, this female, beautiful blonde, mid-30s or whatever, she'd done it before and passed. So I'm like, awesome. Tell me how. Not like sorry, Australians, not like the Aussie males looking at her going, well, who's this Sheila sort of thing. I'm looking at her going, brilliant. I'm going to suck all the information out of you. And she helped me out a little bit. But I love that there was one standard because we all go into that one fire together.
Yeah, there's I think the article was published in the end, but there's a female here in the infantry, and I'll try not to drop her name just in case she doesn't want to drop. But she's done very well in the infantry, and done well at some particular schools. And she was asked, I believe, to write an article for the Army News, and they really wanted her to write a very feminist view on females within combat trades. Well, from her, you're not going to get that. She is one standard. If the blokes are hitting that standard, well, I'm hitting that fucking standard too. And guess what? I'm going to exceed the standard, and I'm going to smoke most of these blokes here while I'm doing it. And that's her mindset, which I love, and I think Jordan Peterson says it best when it's what's really important is equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome, especially in the jobs and the line of work that we're in. Everybody should have the opportunity to turn up and to try and meet the standard. But if you don't pass it, well, there's no free pass. There's no easy way through it. Go back, take a look at the experience, what went well, what didn't go well, what was your preparations, fucking forge a plan to sort it out and go again.
Yeah, love it. It's, as you talked about all those things for the last 10 minutes or so, in particular, the female perspective from that soldier. I remember watching the All Blacks here, and I got the shirt on because I'm interviewing a Kiwi finally.
Yeah, good.
We watched the All Blacks here in Perth, and if you remember, Geordie Barrett got sent off. I think he only played about 30 minutes. He went up to catch the high ball, and it was a poor decision by the referee, sent him off. Damien McKenzie played the last 20 minutes. Well, the All Blacks in Perth, we're way up in the nosebleed stands, but we stuck around and watched them afterwards. And I interviewed Nick Gill, their trainer, on this. It was phenomenal, and that's why I got him on.
Yeah,
anybody that didn't play a full game, and they won, they had a great game. Anybody that didn't play a full game started training on the field. So what that means is Geordie, he had missed 50 minutes of training because of 50 minutes of play. So he did more training. Damien McKenzie had only and TJ Perinara only played 20. They were the last off after training. They went to work, Fitzy. Their job that day was to play a 80-minute game. And if you were on the reserves and didn't play, didn't go on at all, you would be doing 80 minutes of training after the game.
That's phenomenal, eh?
I just realized, and my partner, she's a world-class former athlete. We stood there watching them train. Gilly was putting them through their paces, and that wasn't just, even though as you know, Geordie played a pretty good game there for what he did. They were hammering. They were doing suicides and all these things that I don't know in that fancy rugby world, but they went there, and that's that personal discipline for the job. And I think that's what you're intimating. That's why I've tried to pin it together. That's your comprehension of that's your standard. And that was us, the highest standards of personal discipline, so that we can do our best to then be part of the team.
And that's it, eh? So the last team that I was in was probably the most influential team that I was in as a commando. Great leaders, great team, great guys around me. Just everybody was striving to be the best, and it just really forced you to constantly look at yourself, sometimes involuntarily. You just got, no matter what it was, you may be good at something, but another part of the job, there is just somebody who would clean you up. But it was a really healthy environment to be in. And our troop commander was, he's a phenomenal guy and a good friend of mine now. He was just obsessed with team culture and creating this culture where we were just the best. We were a world-class team providing world-class capability. But it started at the culture level. Like, was the culture and our team had to be right. So in order to rebuild that culture from the ground up, we started looking at different people and different organizations what they were doing really well. It just so happened that he was childhood friends with Brad Shields, and then another old hat, Dane Coles, came on the chat as well. So we had a fantastic chat by Brad Shields and Dane Coles, and if you can get Dane Coles on, I definitely would. He's got a lot of knowledge, man. Him and Brad Shields gave a really good speech. Like I wouldn't even call it a speech; it was almost a presentation, but it was fantastic. But at the base level, years ago, they had the Hurricanes had this huge clean out. They had all the old hats who had done well, forging the Hurricane franchise, but it started to become about them and not the team. It was, without naming names. But anyway, they had this huge clean out, and it was really interesting to hear how they did a culture reset. That it pretty much so happens now, their culture is this is what it means to be the Hurricane. This is our ethos, this is our values, and this is what it looks like to be a Hurricane. If you don't like it, remember, you joined us. We never joined you. Essentially, fuck off somewhere else. And I love that, I think in this day and age, and sometimes I call it a PC world gone mad, I think that it's really refreshing to know that there is organizations, teams out there that still subscribe to, like, this is the standard that we aim for. We aim for excellence. If you aim for anything less than that and you have a problem with that, fuck off. And I think it's a great way to look at it. Again, with the Army, I think I would wish they would go to that, right? We are the New Zealand Army. This is our standard. This is what it looks like to adhere to that standard. You live to meet and exceed that standard. And if you don't want to meet that standard, well then, one, you're not operational, and two, maybe look to go find another job.
Yeah, difference between managing people, leading teams, and I translate for the viewer and listener as well. When you're saying out the door, we're really saying you're not part of the team.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And just going back a few minutes to that healthy culture in our squadron, it wasn't that we were competing against each other. That may be an outcome of that, but you were striving to be your own best. So as you said, you might be really, really good at, say, laying charges, a certain type of charge, super quick, and then some other guy beats you down a rope or whatever. You're still trying to do that really well. It's just that he's trying to do it for himself better. And then that forms healthy competition. It's not as if you're looking at those people and competing against them. And it's brilliant for the team output. It's I was talking to the CSM of the Australian Commandos this morning, and it's so exponential what a team can do. It's 1 + 1 = 3, and then carry that on for the whole squadron.
Yeah, and that's essentially it. Like you said, it's great. It does create this a competitive environment, but all it is it's raising the standard. And then again, it's not like, oh, I need to beat him. It's okay, cool. If he can get to that standard, or whether we're doing time pistol draws or an accuracy drill on a pistol or some sort of CTE on the range, which I now know that with enough work and commitment to the idea of improving that skill set, that I can now raise myself to be at. So yeah, it's just dudes raising standard, and then you going, okay, cool. Now I need to lift my game in order to meet or try exceed that standard.
Exactly. And I was talking to someone about flow state. Maybe it was Dan Pronk the other day. He's the SSR doctor. Something about that. But it's like nobody could run a 4-minute mile. Nobody, your heart would explode. And then Roger Bannister did, and then everybody started doing it.
And that's it. And you literally see that on the range. I love it. We'll be on the range, and a normal day on the range for our squadron anyway could be, you'll turn up, and then you might have a period where we've all got our own target, and we're just going to work on, say, maybe we've got pistols. And that morning, we're all just going to work on our pistol fundamentals, but it's all under your own esteem. So I know that as an individual, I need to work on maybe sight alignment at speed. So I'll go through a few different drills that morning, get cued in and whatnot, sharpen the blade, and then we'll go into critical task evaluations, or CTEs. And then the stopwatch is on, the timer's on, the pressure's on. And when we first start, most people's times will be about the same, and then somebody will jump above, and their time will just be like a good few seconds, or at least a full second faster than everybody else. And then it's like, okay, cool, let's run that one back again. And now automatically everybody's time gets better. And then someone jumps above it again. And then, we run through that same CTE 3 to 4 times. By the end of it, our times are, maybe cut in half. Yep. And it's just because we've all subscribed to, like, okay, this is the time to get. And then someone does better, and it's like, okay, no, it's actually possible to get that drill done in 0.5 of a second faster.
I think that's going to be a great setup for where I want to go next. Again, unpacking a bit of what you just talked about there in perhaps layman's terms. I interviewed, this guy was phenomenal, Fitzy, Dutch Moyer, or Chris Moyer, his nickname's Dutch. He was a Delta Force guy, many, many years, Sergeant Major. And God, this guy had been blown up and done all these things, cancer. And I titled this show, Happiness in the Face of Adversity. He was just an inspirational guy, really a joy to talk to. But what was cool, he said something in there about, I asked him what lessons he's learned in Special Forces that he can use in civilian life, or he wants someone else to know. And he said something like, imagine you've been there before. And that's a generic, fluffy-ish sentence, but what it means is visualization.
Yeah.
Now, for us to get through what was it called when you did? I think it was SAS selection and then Commando stream.
Yeah, so there was pretty much so it went through a couple of iterations. When it first kicked off, it was assessment, and then it was SAS selection. But there was 2 gates. So there was gate 1, which was the Jerry's, and then you're into potentially selected for further training as a commando, and then gate 2 was SAS.
Yep. So I mean, it's a selection process that all the countries, because this is so worldwide, the show, there's all sorts of processes, but the selection process of getting a Special Forces soldier, we've got to visualize ourselves getting past that.
Absolutely.
Getting one step further forward, whatever it is, and then to get through the training of visualizing that. And I remember you said about raising standard at a second higher. I remember my job near the end was pistol training, not the stuff you guys learned because things really changed after that. But I would get those people that were you get 15 people on a course or 10 people on a course, and 3/4 of them grip it up, and there's one really, really good guy, and there's a couple of people that just aren't meeting the standard.
Yeah.
And rather than hammering them more and more, they need a touchy-feely sort of approach. Hey, we'll just try this. Long story short, we've been shooting all day. They had all the students, and they get a fun shoot at the end of the day. It's no stress and a bit of healthy competition, and the prize was, and it would be 1 versus 1, and then you lose, you're out, and you lose, you're in, and then it gets down to the last one. Well, the person who won got to shoot against the instructor, and I hadn't shot all day, and I'm the instructor he has to shoot against, and I just can't let that person beat me because I want to meet my standard, but I haven't shot all day. All I did, you're just visualizing, and that's what we're taught. We're stacked up on the door.
Mm-hmm.
You take that breath, you visualize, and you do your job. What Dutch said, you've been there before, which is why we train. And that visualization is so important, which then segues really into where I can't believe you're at. I mean, you talked about a great commando career, military career, and you've got a successful company. The visualization for that must have played a part, and that must have been something you took into it with your special forces skills.
I think it's just, I think I'd put it down to well, many things, but if we're on this line, I would put it down to that last team that I was in. It was just, if you didn't know something, it was never good enough. It would literally be find it out. Or many times we would have a new piece of equipment come in, and there would be no training package to use it, on how to use it. It was a how-to manual inside. You'd literally open up the box, you'd pull the kit out, you'd get the manual, you'd open it up, you'd plug the manual would be on a CD, you'd put it in the CD readers, pull it up to a laptop, and you would literally go through the manual from cover to cover, and you'd learn how to use this piece of equipment. From there, I would call that like laptop use of the gear. We now have to use it in a tactical setting. So now we start going, right, how are we going to take this gear and use it in the battle space? And then we have to look at all the different methods and modes. Could we man pack this? So are we going to put it in a pack? Are we going to use it in dismounted ops? When it's in a vehicle, how is it going to be in the vehicle? How is it going to work when we're doing mounted ops? And then it would get down to, right, cool, Fitzy's all over that bit of equipment. Now write a PowerPoint presentation, lesson with key learning outcomes on how to use that kit, not just sitting at a desk figuring it out operationally. Yeah. So it would just be figure it out. And that would be it, or it would be, we would get given, whether it was for training, whether it was for operational output, it would be, here is the problem. We don't really know the solution. As an SME in this area, what do you think? And you would just have to figure it out, and you would have to think outside the box. And so that's, I think, a huge skill that's really helped me in business, was just, if I don't know something, I've never cared. It's like, I know I need a website. I know I can't afford to pay somebody to build me a $10,000 website, so I'm probably going to have to build one myself. How do I do that? Literally, pull up YouTube, how to build a Shopify website. Boom. Yep. Watch the video, open up Shopify, start clicking. How to run Facebook ads, open up YouTube. How to run Facebook ads, open up Facebook ads back end, and start literally button for button as I'm being told. And then it's one of those things where it's like the pursuit of excellence. I don't just want to build a website. I want to build a great website. I don't just want to run Facebook ads. I want to run great Facebook ads. And then it comes, you take that same idea, and it's just across the complete spectrum of business, whether it's marketing, branding, product development, research and development, engaging with customers, content, same thing. But the the other tool definitely is confidence. It's one of those things, and I kind of like the idea that the Delta Force guy put out there, which is like, act like you've been there before. I just see and that's one of those things where it's, don't get me wrong, I've had many challenges. I would say some days in business and some periods in business, especially the last 2 years, I would say mentally have almost been tougher than anything I faced in the Army. But knowing what I've been through to get to where I am now, I just never see myself failing. I just see that this is going to be a success, no matter what. And then it's again going back to, being in that team, being in that culture where the goalpost was shifted. It's once I reach a milestone, like, right, cool. This year, what was my first year, was like, let's make $100,000 in business. Let's try to do that. Fuck, we came short. Okay, what went well? What didn't work? What can I do better next time? Next year, you triple sales. Shit. Then you move the goalpost, and then you move the goalpost. And so that's kind of how I've built Warfighter to where it is now. And it's probably another thing, probably not, I wouldn't put on my special forces career, probably just me as a person, is I don't ever see a finish line. For me, that was one of the things that I was starting to really feel like I was lacking in the Army with my career, was I was feeling like it was starting to plateau. I could see the end. I knew, where I was going to be in the next year, where I was going to be in the next 2 years, what that looked like. And I didn't see a whole lot of room for growth. And so that's where I started to feel unfulfilled. And so in business, when you start out in the Army, I knew when I joined the Army, literally before I went on basic training, this episode got released, and it was called First Among Equals, which was a TV.
They filmed us for 18 months, mate.
And that's it. And I just literally seen that documentary, and I was like, that's where I'm going to go. And so throughout my career, no matter what I did, I knew that no matter what was happening in my infantry career, there was this thing that I was going to push onto. And I'd apply the same thing to my business. No matter where we get with Warfighter, there's always another level. There's always a next level to this thing. And if I keep pushing hard enough and I stay disciplined and I work hard, we're going to continue to transcend through the levels of business.
That's brilliant. I'm going to come back to that and relate that to a story with a SEAL that I interviewed a wee while back. But I'll tell you a funny story about, there's lots of funny stories about that documentary. But one funny story. So they followed us around for 18 months. A few of the green roll guys, but primarily the black roll guys, were easy to film. But in what we call, what people think is the kill house, we call it something else with the battle training facility. We would go and do the hostage rescue on the targets when we were training on those live targets. Back then, Fitzy, we had falling heads. So you got a target with a shoot, no shoot, and there's a head there that's going to fall off if you shoot it in the face correctly. Yeah. Well, as the guys roll through the door, by the time the cameraman, because he shouldn't be in front of the guns, by the time he can poke the camera through, all the heads are already down. Yeah. And I remember, because they're going through the editing process, and it was just me and one other guy in the squadron, and the boss or SSM comes up to me, he goes, "Hey, Damo, can you go get a GAT and just go with this cameraman and just set up some targets in the kill house and just shoot them down?" I'm not sure everybody else was. They were on a course or something. And said, sure. And literally, where you see the guys roll in, you see the face and their heads falling down. I had to just line it up with a shot, get the camera in the right way, and just shoot them down. And eventually they weren't falling the right way, so we had to get a shotgun and start blasting them as well.
Oh, it's golden.
No, yeah, it was. They were really cool to work with. In the choppers and everything. It was a fun documentary to put together.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I mean, it turned out good. That series, I dare say, inspired a generation to do selection for sure.
Oh, I'm glad. And that's what Joe Hortai and I talked about. We want to try and inspire the next generation of SF operators. But what you brought to business, or what you bring to business, I interviewed Eric Davis, I think it is. He him and Brandon Webb, two Navy SEALs, they trained. They become. I'm not sure if you went over there, but they revamped the Navy SEAL sniper school. Literally went, this sucks. It's all going in the bin, and now we're going to start from zero.
Yeah,
and they did. But what they brought to it was systems. I'm trying to remember the words they used. Not mind power, mindset, performance. They control in their mind and essentially visualization. But what Eric's done is he's done that for his business. So he's now a business mentor. He's applied the same principles you'd apply to the 25 different things that are going on with the sniper's bullet and the visualization you got to do in the systems and as you said, what worked well, what didn't, what do I have to do to move on? And as you said, go to 300 grand. He's applied that to business, and he's very successful. Sounds like that's what you've done as well. That you brought those principles of, yes, work hard, yes, approach to excellence, and anybody that's listening to you can see that you're driven, but being logical about it as well.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just, I think it's something that anybody could apply to any part of their life, but 100%, it's just, I'm here, I want to get there, and if I keep running at this brick wall, and it's not, I'm trying to get through this brick wall, and I'm running at it, but it's not working, probably pick a different tool. The way, another analogy that I like to use is it's MOE, right? If I come up to, say, a door, I go to unlock it with my hand first. There's no point fucking shooting the lock if it's unlocked, right? So I try to unlock the door with my hand. Doesn't work, door's locked. Cool. I can see the lock. I can see that I can easily attack that lock with a shotgun. I pull out the shotgun. Okay, I still can't open this door. Maybe it's reinforced. All right, let's get an IDC charge or internal door charge. Line it up on the hinges. Fucking boom fuck. The door falls away, and now we've got a concrete wall behind it. Okay, now we've got some clever guys here. Now we need to bring in a hydro charge, or maybe we need to find a different route to get into this room or whatever. But business is the same. You know where you are. You know where you want to get to. Develop or look at the available courses of action. What seems like the most logical course of action to take. Take that course of action. Does it work? Yes. Keep doing that. Is it not working? Maybe stop for a minute, have a quick tactical pause, look at what you're doing, what can be improved, and go again. And that can be, again, like I said, that can be applied to business. It can be applied to a goal in the gym. It can be applied to your relationship. It can be applied to any field of life, that sort of way of thinking about it.
It's a brilliant approach. And that was part of why I wanted to, one of the main reasons I wanted to get you on. I remember last year, I think you put out a video and was talking about how, Warfighter was kicking along really well. And we'll talk about a bit more what Warfighter Athletics looks like now. You were starting up another business where you could use those same skill sets to push on another business. And I thought, it seemed to me like this guy's got systems sorted. Other vets would benefit from your expertise, your experience there. And I think you've put that out really well. What is Warfighter? Because I went to the website just before, quickly again. It looks very different than it did originally, exercise programs and things. What is your specialization now?
So our specialization is we're still going to have that training element. But for me, I just took a look at everything we've learned since we started in regards to training. And there's that's the great thing, is you get so much feedback from such a wide range of people. Like, you get somebody who has never worked out in their life, and they think, man, this training program here is really challenging. Then you get somebody who's an avid athlete. They're disciplined. They eat the right foods. They do the training. They've got a high training age, so they've been training for quite a long period of time. They're very two different people to cater to. And so for me, another element with that, though, was the fact that when I did start Warfighter, I started with a partner. He is still in the SAS, but it was just, we had kind of different ideas. Well, I had a different idea when I went to him with the idea of Warfighter Athletic on what it would look like to build this business together. Very successful guy. He's done a lot of great things. But in the business side of the house, shooting straight, he was just lacking the motivation that I was needing of a business partner. It takes a lot of work to create a global brand that has a global impact. It wasn't lost upon me. And so one guy that I had looked up to was Gary Vaynerchuk. And it was just, he was just a guy, Gary V. I looked at him. He was fucking intense. He was disciplined. He was driven. He was obsessed. And I personally love people like that. And so I knew that for a few years, we're going to have to work like dogs. And so I ended up kind of buying him out of the business and taking full ownership of Warfighter. And then for me, I really developed a passion for the apparel side of the house. And so we started out in what I would call more lifestyle apparel. But I still remember when I first started Warfighter, and I was living with a friend of mine at the time. He was an operator in the unit. He still is an operator in the unit. And I remember saying to him that we're starting here, but one day we will have this full technical apparel line, and we'll have operator pants. You know, we called operator pants pretty much anything that's what we would call operator pants or good to go pants. And it's pretty much dudes around the unit would wear maybe a Rab Talk pant or a foul Raven pant. It would be the pants they would wear when they weren't in uniform. And we called it either your good to go pants or your operator pants, because everybody in the bloody unit was wearing them. And I remember talking to him saying, like, you know, we're going to create some real high-end clothing by the end of this thing. And then kind of as we grew and morphed, I really started to find a love and a passion for apparel, because I think it's a challenge to go out and create really good gear. It is challenging. And then I just started to canvas other brands and what they were putting out there, especially in the New Zealand landscape. And I just thought, you know, again, probably confidence that comes from my soft career or my military career, is the confidence where I was like, fuck, we can do better. We can absolutely raise the standard on what is here in New Zealand. And then I looked on a global scale too, and there are some brands doing some really good shit. But when I looked at the military brands, and there's some big military brands in the apparel space, it is fucking basic, like really basic. And I was looking at some really high-end brands out of America at the time. One of them was Sitka. You know, as a tool I used to help me transition and really help with my transition from operator to civilian, or from soldier back to civilian. That's a topic I could talk on in itself. I think it's a really interesting topic to talk about. But I was looking at these brands and how much technology was in their apparel, and how much they were obsessed with performance and giving their hunting customers the edge. And then I was looking at the apparel that we were doing, and again, being really harsh on ourselves. The unit teaches us that, is to be really hard on ourselves as well, when we're honest, I guess, raw and fucking real with where we're at. And I thought, we can do better as well. And so that's when our first step was stepping into some more technical athletic apparel. And then I just went balls deep into technical apparel, outerwear, and that's where our Commando line really came into it. And so my concept of the Commando line was just, one, raising the standard on what we were doing here at Warfighter, but creating gear that I know I use. I like to go out to the hills. I like to go hunting, and the gear available now on the market, it's not fitting my needs. If you walk into most stores here in NZ, walk into a hunting and fishing, the gear is just fucking trash. And then I kind of looked at the military uniform as well. On one hand, you've got outdoor gear, which I actually, if I had the choice to be able to run civilian gear or issued military kit, every time I'm wearing civilian gear, I'm going to wear outdoor pants, I'm going to wear an outdoor jacket, because the military uniform it's like cardboard. And the number one rule when you go into the outdoors, what is it? Don't wear cotton.
Yeah, cotton kills.
Yeah, cotton kills. Our uniforms are made entirely of cotton. And I remember being in Afghanistan, absolutely freezing my ass off in the Hindu Kush Mountains. we were just fucking buried in snow and freezing your ass off in shitty clothing. And so a lot of that started to really tie in. So I was using, looking back at my time in Afghanistan, looking at my time in the military, looking at my time in SOF, and then looking what I was doing now with hunting. And that's when I came up with the concept and the idea of creating like the ultimate good to go range, which is like, I'm going to be out in the hills getting after it. I'm going to be up the mountain getting after it, or just in my day-to-day life, around the office, in the warehouse, the kids, the home, all the stuff that I'm doing, just gear that I want to wear every single day of the week. And then again, now we've gone to the next level with everything we learnt during the development of the Commando line, taking that same obsession and now going, right, let's take our athletic gear to the next level. And so, yeah, the idea is making sure that over the next 5 years would be a good time frame, would be over the next 5 years as we're catering to the entirety of the warrior athlete from where to go. We're there in the gym doing all their gym work through to they're fully out on a mission or expedition. And so even on the mission side, we're working on some real exciting stuff, talking with American manufacturers. It's still early days there, but got a lot of awesome scope, talking to American military manufacturers, making military grade clothing and equipment, but again, putting our spin for performance on it, warfighter athletic, because that's the reality. The job is not to be sitting there bulked up with, cardboard like clothing.
Yeah.
It's to high speed, professional, and it's that age old, if you look good and you feel good, you're going to perform good. So that's the concept that we want to take into the military sector as well.
Awesome. You've got so much to unpack there. Just on that exact point, from operator to athlete, after we finish, I'm definitely going to connect you with Joe Hortai. I'm not sure if he was around when you were, but he runs Zero Alpha in New Zealand now. He was a New Zealand soldier. I've interviewed him, so I'll tell a story. Past selection, finished his cycle, and they wouldn't badge him in the last week.
Yeah.
Said, come back. He said, a big up yours, and came to Australia, joined Commandos, joined SASR, had a long career in SASR, and now he's back in New Zealand. But he's running something called Zero Alpha, which is Special Forces endurance racing, or endurance events, selection-y based stuff. I just saw his Instagram page on that yesterday, but it would be quite synergistic, I think, bringing your stuff in there for performance, and I'll definitely link you up. So that's something clever, but unpacking what you've done there, and great that you touched on transition, because that was going to be my final subject.
Yeah.
You exude passion, obviously. You found your passion, so that's great. And that's something that people have a massive problem from identity-wise coming out of the military. But creativity. So that's why I wanted to go where your warfighter's going now. Great, got the fitness base, all the excellent stuff you're doing, but you're making things, be it sewing yourself, or be it going and making things by having manufacturers put stuff together and you're designing it. Creativity, and then you got the fitness as well, and those things are all flow state triggers, which help us keep our brains sane coming out of where we come from. I was literally just listening to Jason Fox, great book, Battle Scars.
Yeah.
He's coming on the show soon.
Is he?
Yeah, he is. So Dan linked me up, which is great. Otherwise, you got to go through agents. Gosh, getting these guys through agents is tricky.
Yeah.
They're like bodyguards. But what was cool with him was, I think, the first SAS Who Dares wins in the UK, which I saw years ago. One of the, well, they call it the mirror room, but the interrogation room, one of the civilians was talking about suicide. He tried to commit suicide. And Foxy, you saw his face twist, because he actually had had made a phone. It's in his book. He's made a phone call to this colleague of his. He told her he was going out to go hang himself from a tree. So he knew where he's at. It was phenomenal to hear that story. And I've painted that black picture because I wanted to then move on to him and the other guys working through the different projects they are, helping veterans through their transition. They use creativity. They use fitness. They use getting outdoors. They call it music, hills, and something else. But they use all those things to keep that brain there, to get them out of that hole. You remind me, Fitzy, of the guys at GBRS, DJ Cole, Davis, those guys, they're making stuff. They're literally stitching belts. And now they sell literally the highest end warfighter belt I think you could find. But that creativity is helping them get through.
Yeah.
And that is, I got you on as a whole person, a whole successful veteran-owned business, because I wanted to hear from your voice how you'd manage that, and you're literally ticking off the checklist here.
Yeah, this is a topic I'm actually really passionate about as well, and that's just yesterday, a good friend of mine, he's posted that once again another guy's taken his own life.
Oh,
and it's just it just absolutely destroys me, but that's why I love Foxy, because I think in this day and age on Instagram there is an affinity to guys who have been in SOF or SF, and there's no shame in that. I'm using that story to help me outside of the military, but I do think a lot of the guys play characters. For me, it's just like, I am who I am. If you like me, if you don't, you don't. But with Foxy, I love that he shared, the downs, because it's not all us. We're not, steely-eyed dealers of death with no emotions and whatnot. We have emotions. We have love. We have empathy. We care for people in the world. Why, as much as we're in the job and we want to go shoot guys in the face, when we go to Afghanistan and you're looking at these oppressed women and children and these pure pieces of shit who live there, we want to do something, not because it's cool, it's because we give a fuck, we care. Yeah. But so to go back to transition for me is like, most people would think, and even I thought it, I'm transitioning into running my business full time. I'm going to have no dramas with transition whatsoever. I remember 2020 was my first year out of the military. And I just remember so many moments where I would have, very short-lived, I must admit, and I don't know why, maybe it's genetically, but in general, I have pretty good mental health. Like, I know people who can struggle with depression and anxiety and all these other things, and I might have like a short little period but for me, it's like a day. I might have a day where I feel depressed, or I might have a couple of days where I might feel a bit of anxiety. But in general, I think I'm really lucky with my emotions. But in saying that, I did have more times than I thought I would, times sitting at this desk. I've got this business that I'm passionate about. I'm fucking obsessed with it. Anyone who knows me is like, I feel uncomfortable taking days off. That's how obsessed I am. But I had days where I would just sit there and have these gross realizations where it was like, being a commando, being in the unit, being around those people, that was my identity. That was at my core, in my fucking soul. That was who I was. That is who I identified as. The more I sunk into business, the more I realized was like, fuck, I'm not that guy anymore. Like, I'm not one of the boys. But then, so my office is in the gym, right? And I know lots of great people here now, great, loving people here now. But when I first got here in 2020, I knew no one outside that door. And I was like, I no longer identify with the lads. And I know some of them, would have had an issue probably with me. Foxy, they've all dealt with it, talking about the unit and being outside the unit. But I think I've done so well within the realms of OPSEC and anything that matters. And it's like, I don't belong to that group, but I also don't belong to these people out here. So I'm kind of no man's land, and I don't belong anywhere. But then for me, I thought, you know what? the unit didn't make me this great guy. The army didn't make me this great guy. The infantry going to Afghanistan didn't make me this guy or this person. I was always that person. The army, like an onion, just peeled back the layers to show me who I was. And so that's what I would tell guys is like, and I do tell guys that now, like, you're not fucking the man because you're in the SAS. Like, bro, you are the fucking man, and you're a good dude, and you're capable of so many things. And the unit didn't make you that way. You've always been that way. The unit just revealed what you didn't yet know about yourself. So you can take all that shit you did in the unit, all those skills you learned, and you can take that into the outside world, and you can still thrive. Because what we see is people, when they transition, is like, I swear, like 99% of soldiers, they go and be these great, fantastic, motivated, driven soldiers, and you see them 5 years removed from their military career, or 1 to 2 years removed from a military career, and it's like, bro, or sis, what the hell happened to you? Like, you were once like the super soldier, and now you've just completely let yourself go, probably struggling with depression. You got no purpose, no passion. And so for me, there's been some real key tools. And one of them is obviously being warfighter. Warfighter has been huge for me. And that is where I find my main source of passion and purpose. But the other two is fitness and training. It's like, no, I don't need to be fit for operations anymore. But it wasn't just operations. Like, this is who I am. I like to work out, I like to train, I like to get uncomfortable. And so for me, I've hooked in, I've maintained fitness. I've started kickboxing and taking kickboxing more seriously. That gives me another outlet. And there is, for those of us who were in combat trades, it was something I'd love to speak to a psychologist about, but we were trained for violence. And to some people from the outside, it may sound weird, but I like violence. And you really learn to like violence. And the unit has a way of making you really good at violence. And I think you signing a 717, it doesn't remove that trigger. It doesn't remove that switch or that thing that you have inside you to be violent. And that, I would say, lust for violence. You can attest to it. When you're in the kill house and you're blowing doors off the fucking hinges and you're throwing flashbangs and internal door charges are going off and you're shooting past your mate's face and you're rappelling out of helicopters, like, that is one hell of a rush. And for that to be your job, there is a lot of purpose that is pulled from that. And so for me, I get that from kickboxing. But that same, we're gearing up to go on exercise, we're gearing up to go on a training trip, we're gearing up to go on operations, that's hunting for me. When I'm doing my battle prep, I'm sorting out my food, waterproofing everything, I'm making sure my gun's good to go, I'm going to the range, hunting, like, man, when I'm out on that hill, like, I feel so good. And so that's what I say to guys is, like, just because you've left the unit or the army, or whether it's police or fire, those guys do, you guys did and do hardcore shit every single day. I've got friends in the police. Like, it's unfathomable what they deal with, and it gets zero screen time on the news. But it's like, you don't have to stop doing these things. You're in the army and you go to the field and you're living out in the field. You can still do that stuff on the outside. You can go camp on the mountain. You can go stay in a hut on the mountain. You can go hunting and you can fly camp and you can live out in the bush and, have those nostalgic moments again about all the stuff you did in your military career. But you've got to be proactive. You can't just get out and then sit on your ass and wait for some golden opportunity to come to you. And this is like my specific message I would say to guys in a special operations unit, is because, there is an element, and I actually spent time applying for the parachute regiment in the UK. And they've got a great process too for making you believe that you are a fucking dealer of death and everybody on the battlefield should fear the wrath of a paratrooper. And it's about, sorry, where's it going with that?
So it's really what you want people to know about transition, I think, is summing up where you're going.
Yeah. And so it's again, just to sum it up, is it's understanding that you were this awesome person. You did really challenging things, but it doesn't have to end when you leave the military. But again, it's not, nothing's coming for you. You know, we actually had a team motto, it's used a lot now. Some motivational speakers on the circuit have stolen it. But it was one of our team mottos, and I actually think it derived from maybe a Navy officer who wanted to turn around, I think literally the most piece of shit Navy unit within the United States Navy. He had a tall order, and he turned it around, and it was the idea that no one is coming to solve your shit. Absolutely no one is coming. So you've got to go out and get after it. You get out of the military, right, what's next? Like you said, keep that training regimen, set goals, keep doing hardcore stuff, keep being creative. And just the book isn't closing. This is, I guess, the final thing for me is like the book on your life isn't closing. It's just the new chapter is beginning. And what's written in those pages is 100% up to you. But
Have you seen the show I did with John McPhee, Sergeant Major at Delta Force?
No, I need to watch it though, by the sounds of it.
Because how old are you, Fitzy?
32.
So he's in his 50s, Sergeant Major, 25 years Delta Force. And he said that same thing about chapters of your life. Are you at chapter 1? Are you in the middle, the beginning, the end, whatever it is? So what I love is you're from New Zealand, he's from America, completely different units, and you're saying the same thing. What I'd like to delve into there is transition, and I had it with the Aussie this morning, stand by, with Nick Hill. When I was in the unit and in the military, and people think when they get out, and that's for civilians, that's leaving the military, what am I going to do? That's a job. What am I going to do? But what I think transition should be is, who am I going to be? Because you talked about identity. People think, what am I going to do now? But it's who you're going to be. You're unfortunately not that guy in body armor and with a gat. And if you don't make the transition, if you don't let that go, and you've got to figure out how to do that, you're not going to transition from that identity. Dan Pronk, SASR doctor.
So that was the point.
Yeah.
Sorry, the point I lost before.
Good.
Was like I was saying, like the paratrooper, you're made to believe you're the steely-eyed dealer of death. Commando, AS, Delta Force, Navy SEALs, you're made to think you're elite. And what I would love to tell guys is like you're nailing it here. Is like you're going to be someone different, and you need to be able to separate and leave behind that person who you were, because I think that's one thing that guys do too much. And you see it in the unit, guys who have been around way too long, they should move on, but they're hanging on to who they were or who they are instead of looking at who they could be. And so I just tell guys, like, in the most humble and respectful way ever, when you get out of the unit, I have learnt this, is like, as much as you think, like, yes, it probably has helped my business somewhat, no one really gives a fuck. No one gives a fuck more than you that you were a Navy SEAL. No one gives a fuck more than you that you were SAS. No one gives a fuck more than you that you were a Commando. That's my like really frank way of looking at it. Like I tell people that, like, I'm proud of my service. I'm proud that I was a Commando, but I understand no one really gives a fuck. And to be honest, I no longer give a fuck anymore either. Like, I was proud of that chapter of my life. That was who I was. It is not who I am anymore. I want to go on to achieve far greater things. I want to impact way more people's lives. I want to do way more greater things that leaves a longer lasting legacy than just the fact that I was a Commando. So yeah, thank you. You helped trigger that.
I think we've covered that, what's required, but then let's go back. How did you do that?
I think if I looked at how did I do that, the number one thing that I would say to guys is it takes time. It really takes time. Like
but Fitzy, you're out for 2 years, like at the most 2 years. 2020 was when you were in the military. How did you transition your identity? What did you do to achieve that? I'm sure veterans listening are going, right, what did he do?
Yeah, well, I would say it is probably almost wholeheartedly down to me having warfighter, and now instead of going, I'm an operator, for me, I am an elite businessman, or I am an elite entrepreneur. And that's where my energy goes. It's like, not the operator anymore. I'm a fucking entrepreneur, and I want to be the best entrepreneur in the world. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to fuck up. There's going to be a whole lot of learning, but this is who I am, and this is what I am now. And I say the best thing that I've seen recently is a guy from the US Army called Nick Bear. He owns Bear Performance Nutrition, and he calls himself a hybrid athlete. But essentially, it's an entrepreneur athlete. He's a fucking badass entrepreneur, but he's also an athlete at the exact same time. And so that's my new identity. That's who I am. I am this guy. I like to train. I stay fit, and I still like to do hardcore stuff. I'm going to go out. I'm going to climb mountains. I'm going to be out in the hills hunting. But I'm also this fucking super entrepreneur. And then as well, I'm a dad. You know, like when I look at that, I've got an example to set for my children and to show them what's possible as well. So yeah, that's kind of where I switched my identity. Was like, cool, I was an operator. I'm not anymore. I'm now this hybrid entrepreneur athlete. And that's my identity.
Yeah, it's mental management is the words I was trying to remember before, about what Brendan and Eric did. And you're epitomizing that as well, because and you did it as an explanation, not as a statement of identity. You're saying, I am a, and I never forget a Tony Robbins thing. I mean, I did a lot of mental management skills long years ago, but Tony Robbins has got this great one of, well, I'll be happy when I go on holiday. I'll be happy when I go on that holiday to Fiji. What the hell are you going to do in the months and weeks before you go on that holiday? But you said, I am a, and that comes back to that self-belief. You talked about confidence. They're just descriptive words. I think they're called adjectives if my age doesn't belay my education. But you are epitomizing in the present and the positive tense of what you are. And even if you're not, you're going to believe that. You're going to, again, like Dutch said, you're going to believe you've been there before.
Yeah. And that is literally my mindset. Like I literally live as if I'm going to be the next greatest entrepreneurial story ever. And I have my days. Like I'm a fucking human. I have my days where I'm like, man, Fitzy, you are fucking this up, son. But then, very quickly it's just like, well, that doesn't help anybody. What's the solution here? Cool, let's focus on that. Now I'm back to, I'm the fucking ultimate athlete entrepreneur. It's just,
And you nailed it with that Navy analogy or example. Again, like nobody cares about you, Fitzy, because you're living in your brain 24 hours a day. That's your brain. Nobody's going to come and save you. It's down to you. And I meant that to be blunt, but it's down to you to save yourself. They're down to you to grip your brain up, down to you to create that future for you, create that future for your child and your family. But you're the one doing that. No one's going to come save you. And I'm saying that for the listener, because if they're in that dark hole, which we all go through at different times, and it's that roller coaster, you're in charge.
That's it.
Reach out and get help or listen to these things. And if one thing we say out in this show helps one person, great, but you're in charge of it. And I think I don't have to elaborate anymore. That was brilliant what you said. Thank you so much. And I love how organic these things are. I wasn't sure where that was going. We've nailed for transition there. Brilliant, mate. I'd love to have you back on the show and find out where you're going in 2022 and how that's all gone. But man, that's absolute gold. Congratulations on Warfighter. Congratulations on your new identity and social identity and your new purpose. It's great to be able to share your story with the network of people here.
Thanks for having me on. I love talking about it.
I still have to figure out how you're the hardest guest to get on here. I think I've been searching for you for 6 months or 8 months to get on the show.
Honestly, like I said to you, I am obsessive. So like if I'm on a project, I can be getting emails, and if it's like not in line with that project, I'll just be like, I'll get to that soon. But sometimes I am just sometimes people have said, Fitzy, you need a bloody PA, mate. And I'm like, you're telling me.
I hired a VA the other day, which is helpful. That just reminds me of a story with Schwarzenegger. I modeled myself on Schwarzenegger's successes when I was a young bodybuilder and things. Crazy world back then. But Schwarzenegger, for those who don't know, he was a gym instructor when he came to America, and he had a mail order business. So he's kind of like a 1970s version of you, with his own business. But what he would do, he was so obsessed with he wanted to become a millionaire, Fitzy. Not many people know the story. Mail order business. So instead of online sales, you'd get a check in the mail for his exercise program. Any letters that were addressed to him, he'd hold up the light. If it didn't have a cash or check, he just ripped it and threw it in the bin, didn't even open it.
Oh, mate, I love his character, eh?
Yeah, crazy guy. Not many bills paid there. Hey, Jordan, great to have you here. If you're listening, we're going to have it in the show notes. I'll punch it all down, warfighterathletic.co.nz. So it's great to have a Kiwi on board. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your stories. Brutally honest. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much.
Cheers, mate. Appreciate it.